The corridors of the royal vessel shimmered with pale silver light, humming softly with the pulse of alien energy. The human Captain Elias Ward walked through them with steady steps. His uniform was worn but clean, his boots still marked by the red dust of a dozen conquered worlds. He had been summoned by the galactic throne itself, a meeting that no human, not even a diplomat, had ever been granted before. Rumors said the alien monarchy distrusted humans, considering them dangerous, unpredictable, and too swift to fight rather than talk. But Elias had earned a name among their fleets for bravery, for discipline, and for an act of mercy that had saved thousands of alien civilians during the Orion siege. That mercy had brought him here to stand before a ruler whose people once called humanity a primitive storm. When the chamber door slid open, Elias entered a place that shimmered like a dream. The walls were translucent, waves of color shifting through crystal layers. At the center stood a circular platform surrounded by a quiet field of light, where a figure awaited. The figure was the princess. She was tall by human measure, her skin faintly luminous like moonlight over water, her hair silver white cascading like liquid metal, and she was bare, not in the human sense of indecency, but in the traditional form of her people's sacred greeting, a gesture of transparency and truth. To them, garments were barriers of formality. Removing them before a meeting meant trust and openness. But she did not expect a human to walk through the door at that exact moment. Her violet eyes widened with shock, her translucent markings glowing brighter as emotion rushed through her body. Elias froze. The air between them thickened with silence. For a moment, neither spoke. Then the princess's hand instinctively reached for a sheer cloth near the dais, pulling it over her shoulders in haste, though her expression held more surprise than shame. "You are human," she said softly, her voice melodic, almost trembling with disbelief. "I was summoned by the throne," Elias answered, standing firm though his face bore calm respect. "I apologize if my presence was untimely." She studied him carefully. No human had ever been allowed this close, let alone into her personal quarters. Her world had always painted humanity as brutal conquerors, their history filled with war and defiance. But this one, he spoke gently, without arrogance, without fear. "My attendants were not informed," she said after a pause, her tone regaining its royal calm. "You entered at a moment of vulnerability. That is rare for my kind." Elias bowed his head slightly. "Then I am honored, Your Highness." The princess tilted her head, uncertain if it was sarcasm or sincerity. But the human's eyes were steady, his words untainted by mockery. It unsettled her more than she expected. "Do you understand what this gesture means?" she asked quietly, clutching the cloth closer to her body. "In your culture," he replied, "it's a show of truth. No illusions, no armor." He met her gaze. "It's a kind of bravery I can respect." Something in his voice, low, steady, carrying the weight of countless battles, made her hesitate. Most who spoke to her carried fear or false reverence. He carried neither. He was simply human. She motioned for him to sit by the glowing pool at the center of the chamber. "Then let us speak honestly, as your kind says. You know why you're here." Elias nodded. The war between the Terran Federation and the Lysian Empire had ended in a fragile ceasefire. The peace depended on a single diplomatic gesture, the unification of trust between their species. The throne had chosen the princess to lead the new era. Humanity had chosen Elias Ward, the soldier who had once spared an entire Lysian colony, to stand beside her as the symbol of peace. But no one had expected the princess herself to agree to such a union. She had refused every envoy, every treaty, every symbolic partnership, until now. "You're not what I imagined," she said suddenly, breaking the quiet. The report spoke of a human commander who burned through enemy fleets without hesitation, a man who defied orders to save civilians. "I thought someone like that would be colder." Elias gave a faint smile. "War teaches you when to fight and when not to. Mercy is not weakness." Her eyes softened, though she tried to hide it. "And yet it's rare in your kind." "Rare doesn't mean absent," he replied. Silence fell again, filled only by the hum of the ship. She studied his face, the rough lines of experience, the subtle weariness in his eyes. He seemed older than his years, but there was something enduring in his presence, something that refused to break. Finally, she asked, "Do you find my form strange?" Elias looked at her with calm honesty. Different, yes, but not strange. You are what you were meant to be. Her breath caught for a moment. For all the adoration of her people, no one had ever spoken to her so plainly. Not with reverence, not with desire, just truth. She rose, her silvery markings shimmering like constellations under the chamber light. Then perhaps humans are not as shallow as my advisors claim. He chuckled softly. I'll take that as a compliment. That moment changed something between them. The formal barrier dissolved, and a fragile thread of understanding began to weave its way through the air. Days passed aboard the royal vessel, as the two worked together on the peace accords. They debated strategy, ethics, and culture. Elias learned the subtle meanings of her people's gestures and tones. She learned the blunt, direct ways of human conversation. He showed her holographic recordings of Earth. Vast oceans, green forests, cities bathed in sunlight. She was fascinated by rain, by the simplicity of wind and gravity untouched by technology. In return, she showed him the heart of Lycia, a crystal that resonated with thought, storing memories in waves of light. One night, while standing at the observation deck, she asked him, "Do humans always chase stars?" "Not always," he said, watching the nebulae beyond the glass. "Some chase meaning. Others just run from what they lost. Which are you?" Elias didn't answer for a long time. "Both, maybe." She turned toward him, her gaze softening. "Then perhaps we are not so different after all." Peace between their species would not come easily. Many among the Lysian Council distrusted humans, calling them chaotic. Some within the Terran fleet whispered that Elias had gone native. But as the days turned into weeks, their bond became undeniable, a bridge neither politics nor prejudice could destroy. When the final treaty was prepared, the princess stood before her council, wearing the ceremonial robes of unity. Beside her stood Elias, the symbol of the fragile hope that had been born from war. The chamber was silent as the two clasped hands before the gathered envoys. The heart of Lycia glowed between them, responding to their joined will. Light surged, filling the hall with a brilliance that reached even the deepest shadows. The union was complete. Later, when the ceremony ended and the envoys dispersed, the princess lingered in the now quiet hall. Elias stood near the grand window looking out at the infinite sea of stars. She approached quietly, her presence calm yet powerful. "When I first saw you," she said softly, "I thought you were a mistake. A human who stumbled where he didn't belong. And now?" he asked, turning slightly. "Now I think you belong more than anyone else ever has." He smiled faintly. "You've changed a lot since that day." "So have you." She hesitated, remembering that first moment, his startled gaze, her shock, the quiet respect that followed. In that single, accidental meeting, a seed of peace had been planted, growing into something greater than either could have planned. "Elias," she said, her voice almost a whisper, "if your people are the storm, then perhaps I was meant to be the calm that meets it." "And maybe," he replied gently, "that's how peace begins." The light of the twin suns rose over the ship, casting soft gold across their faces. For the first time in centuries, the Lysian Empire and humanity stood not as enemies, but as partners, each changed by the courage to understand the other. And though that first meeting had been filled with shock, with unspoken tension and surprise, the memory of it became a quiet legend. How a human soldier walked into the chamber of an alien princess, saw her bare and unguarded, and instead of turning away, saw the truth beneath the surface. It was the day she learned that humanity's strength was not only in war, but in compassion. And it was the day he discovered that even across the stars, honesty could unite worlds once torn apart. The universe remembered that moment forever. The spark that began with a glance, a silence, and the courage to see another as more than strange. The princess would later say, in the chronicles of peace, that the human's arrival had stripped her not of dignity, but of fear, because in that instant when she stood bare before him, and he chose to see her as she was, trust was born. That trust became the foundation upon which the future of two civilizations rested. Fragile, uncertain,